Okay, so what I want to share with you all right now is more of an opinion that I personally have. So I'm going to start this off with saying if you do not agree with anything that I am sharing, okay, like that's fine. Um, I am just noticing this pattern that we have been having for many years now, where a lot of people tend to share complaints, negativity, judgments about all the bad that's happening in the world, all the, terrible things that take place, and there's not enough intention being placed on the good that is happening or offering up solutions, helpful suggestions for how we should be um, helping, right? We all love to complain and love to focus on the bad. But I feel that it's out of balance where there's a ton of the bad stuff out there. We already know, we've heard it many, many times. But what are some suggestions? What are some options? What are some solutions that we can begin generating and experimenting with that can be helpful? And I'm not just talking about solutions in terms of things we can buy or use, solutions in terms of how to bridge the gap in relationships, right? Because there's a lot of political divides that are taking place. There's a ton of injustice that happens, of course, which is contributing to these deepening divides. There's a lot of war, climate change, there's so much vast differing opinions about that. But I don't know. I just feel like there's not enough balance in terms of the positives and in terms of the solutions, in terms of how we can be helping each other. So I would say, as a suggestion, if you are consuming news and you are or watching a video on social media and all you are feeling is hopelessness, depression, feeling devastated, and feeling like there is no way out, please, please just stop reading what you're reading or watching what you're watching, and really focus on taking in content that energizes you. Okay, taking in content that makes you feel inspired to do something good and to be in service of whatever it is that you are passionate about. If you are passionate about climate change, great. Don't consume content and videos that's just doomsday around climate change, right? Maybe consume or create content around solutions and how people might be able to get into the practice of dealing with climate change, or sharing about how we can navigate this. What are things that we can do that's practical, that's you're teaching something or you're consuming where you feel inspired to change your habits, right, in a positive way. I just think that a lot of us are not being very intentional about how we are feeling emotionally, physically, when we take in content. Like, a lot of it is unconscious, right? And I speak for myself. When I'm on my phone and I am looking at news and social media, it's not conscious. I'm not consciously aware of, oh my gosh, this is making me feel really depressed and this is terrible. And it's like, oh, this is interesting what I'm reading about. Oh, I didn't know this. And deep in my body, I just start to feel icky, right? I just start to feel like, oh, like this is really uncomfortable. There is a place for that feeling, right? When we feel uncomfortable, when we feel tension, when we feel maybe even trauma around certain things, that might inspire some people to act, right? And to get involved and to help and to get into politics, or, I want to protest or I want to do something, right? Yes, there's a place for that for sure. I'm talking about the daily unconscious habits that we're just consuming with no real um, attention and intention on how is this making me feel? How is this helping me or hurting me? how has watching an hour's worth of this content or reading an hour's worth of this content um, fueling my body, my mind, and my spirit? How is it impacting how I show up, my emotions, all of that, right? And if you notice that you're in this cycle and this pattern of I read and I feel hopeless, and so then I want to distract, right, with food or with social, with watching a movie or with just, I don't want to think about all of these things because it feels so overwhelming, it feels so exhausting, it feels so hopeless. So I'm going to do nothing. That's a really bad cycle to be in, right? Instead, maybe you can start consuming content that makes you feel inspired, or maybe you think about, what is it that I know? What is it that I have learned? What is it that I have to offer and to contribute to the world that is helpful, that is in service of making my community better and stronger? And maybe that's focused on a particular area. Maybe your passion is animals. Maybe your passion is climate. Maybe your passion is standing up for human rights, right? There's a lot that's happening in the world with the wars that are taking place. Whatever that is, that's fine. Um, I, I just think that we should be more intentional about how we are in service and helping versus how we are either being in hopelessness or in toxic anger. And what I mean by that is, like, it's easy to judge, it's easy to criticize, it's easy to say, you're fucking this all up. It's harder to work with people to make things better. It's harder to see value in saying, well, what is it that is difficult about that person's job or what they're doing, and how can I help so that we can make things better and make improvements on. And so I work in innovation, right? And a lot of the tenets of innovation, and you may have heard this in improv, is around your language and how your language is important. And one rule around either improv, or we use this a lot in innovation, is yes and, right? And so when you say no, but you're essentially rejecting someone's ideas, you're rejecting their contribution, and then you're also giving kind of like an objection in some way, or no, but this is what's happening, right? This is the obstacle that we have in place here. But you're not ever offering a solution in that, right? When you say no, but when you say yes and, right, you're saying, yes, I acknowledge that what you shared may exist and might be true in some way. And we also might want to consider that these possibilities, can happen, right? And so in improv, it's like you take their idea and you recreate it or you build on it, right, to something else. But you don't reject it. You don't say, I don't accept what you've just shared with me, right? I see a lot of that happening in the political discourse and the climate change stuff, right? It's like this denial of, well, that doesn't exist, or you're wrong, and I'm just going to, poo-poo that idea, right? In a lot more contentious terms. So anyway, what I'm trying to say in a not so eloquent way, maybe, is that it is important to accept, to take in, to acknowledge people's opinions and what they're thinking about things and why they might think that way, right? It's like applying empathy. And then building on, and then creating together, right? I don't think that we'll be able to accomplish anything positive towards the goals that we want as a society to improve climate change, to improve relationships between differing parties, if we cannot somehow speak to each other and acknowledge each other's needs, and find a bridge to each other, right? So that's just some thoughts that I have around this. Again, it's not eloquent, it's not organized in any particular way. I like to think about my relationship with my husband He and I have been together for 20 years, going on 21 years. We've been married since 2011. And I know that a lot of the success of our relationship has come from the work that we put into um, overcoming the obstacles, the challenges, the disputes that we often have. We are two different people. He has his own way of living and thinking and operating, and I have my own, and that does not always mean that we get along or that we see eye to eye. And so it is not the fighting, or if we were to let the fighting and the disagreements and all that kind of reign, we would never be successful, right? We would hold resentment towards each other. We would begin to lose respect for each other, all of that. But it is through me trying to understand him, trying to be empathetic to him, trying to also articulate very clearly and respectfully how I'm feeling and the needs that I have, and why I might disagree with him in a way that's still honoring him, but trying to make it clear, what I need from him. But him also taking the opportunity to kind of quiet himself and slow down and say, okay, I understand now how you felt. Here's what I was going through and what I was struggling with and what I needed. And then us coming to a decision or a compromise on how are we going to move forward, right? That comes through us having established trust with each other and trusting that he's going to have my back, trusting that when I confide in him that he's going to listen. And that doesn't always happen smoothly. Sometimes it takes a couple of tries for us to finally get to a place where we can quiet down and hear each other out. Anyway, again, I know other people probably have said this more eloquently than I have, but that's what just comes to my mind of like, let's be intentional about what we're consuming, how it's making us feel, and what can we do to create more solutions and contribute something that is helpful, but also build relationships and bridges to other people. So just pay attention, right? Pay attention to what you're using your time on, what you're taking in, and not just letting all of these differing opinions and attacks and doomsday content put you into that place of hopelessness and despair. That is not the answer. Obviously, it is not the answer. It just causes more despair. It causes more disruption to how we live our life. There's a lot of distractions out there that can move us away from helping each other and being in service to each other, and honoring each other in a respectful way. It's easy to just like let the anger and the injustice kind of take over and make us feel like it's always going to be this way and there's nothing we can do about it. So just be careful. I have fallen into this. I'm not saying this because I'm clear of that. No, I very much have fallen into this, and I'm trying to climb my way out of it. So this is my attempt at being helpful, offering up something. I'll get better at this, guys. I'll get better at like editing and all of this. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if any of you are really good at it and have some suggestions for how I can improve on this, I welcome them. I want to speak and I want to share. And I don't want the editing and all of that to be a barrier for me getting the content out, which is why I'm starting to try and just record, post. So anyway, I hope that wherever you are today, that you are doing well, that you feel loved, that you feel supported, that you feel hopeful and joyful about what's possible in your life, in your career, and I just want to send goodness your way. So thank you so much. Have a great day.